Award-winning filmmaker and Emmy Award-winning TV host Michael Moore has long been a household name. And movies aside, has never been shy about his politics, including, perhaps especially, right now. This past week on his podcast, he called for Joe Biden to resign and allow Vice President Kamala Harris to become both the president and the Democrats' 2024 presidential nominee. He tweeted this plea to Biden, quote, "Be the one who not only stopped Trump, but also the brave man who gave us our first woman in the Oval Office. She will complete your mission and we'll stand beside her. This is your moment in history. Do the right thing." Michael's feelings are so strong on this subject that he was even on MSNBC last week calling the Democrats' encouragement of Biden to stay in office a form of elder abuse. Michael has also been a vocal critic of Israel's war in Gaza and the Biden administration's support for it, calling it a slaughter that needs to stop. And Michael Moore, host of the Rumble with Michael Moore podcast, joins me now. Michael, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Mehidi. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So what made you decide, Michael, that Biden has to step down? Because it's a big deal in this country, especially, to call for a serving president to just step down. Was it his CNN car crash debate performance, or did you already have your doubts?
Well, yes, I had my doubts. I've had my doubts since October, and I said so on my podcast at the end of October that Biden has now defeated Biden and probably will not win. But just to back up a bit, thank you for clearly stating exactly what I said over the last week, that I'm not just asking Biden to step aside. I'm saying that the question that everybody was asking after the debate, is he fit for another 4 years? The question to me was and is he fit to serve another 4 days? Because what I saw, and anybody who has seen their grandparents or parents in that state knows what's going on. And so what I first asked for is that the White House, please call in a team of independent doctors, not Walter Reed. They work for the Army. He's the commander-in-chief. That means he's the boss. I don't want to hear from them. I want an independent neurologist or a team of them to do a medical evaluation. That seemed like the kind thing to ask for. Because I have to say, and I've been very critical of Joe Biden since October 7th, but I also have been very supportive of him, as has Bernie.
Yes.
Those of us who worked for Bernie, I learned working on the campaign with Bernie back in 2020 that he really likes and respects Joe Biden, and they're friends.
Why do you think it is, Michael, that the left in particular, Bernie Sanders, AOC, Ilhan Omar, have come out very strongly in favor of Biden staying on, and we're actually seeing centrists like Michael Bennet in the Senate, Mikey Sherrill in the House saying he's got to step aside. A weird inverse.
It is a weird inverse. I think that they have the same position I have, which, weirdly enough, we believe that Joe Biden is the most progressive president of our lifetime. If you seriously look at the progressive record,
yes,
from JFK to Jimmy Carter, God bless him, and Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, it's amazing how much Biden has done. I was so proud of how much of Bernie's essential platform that once Biden was elected and then in the White House, he took on a lot of what we were all pushing for in terms of the issues of student debt, of climate, of the fact that we still have a $7.25 minimum wage. Biden has worked very hard to undo the last 40 years since Reagan.
So what would you say, Michael?
Yeah.
What would you say then to Biden supporters watching you speak and say, hold on, Michael, we all agree then that he's been a great president domestically. We'll come to foreign policy in a moment.
Yeah.
He's been a great president domestically. He just had one bad night. just let him finish his term and govern and carry on governing. It was just one bad night.
No, it wasn't. That's really, I don't know, it's worse than spin. It's not true.
Yeah.
I would say to these Democrats who are, backing him, that do you have a grandparent or four? Because you know what? Every human has four grandparents and two parents. And if you're over the age of 40, you've probably seen at least one of them reach this age, and you've probably seen the decline. And it's heartbreaking. To me, that debate was heartbreaking to me to see. My first thought is, who let him out on that stage in that condition? Who would do that to their parent or grandparent? Or if you say you love Joe Biden, why was he on that stage that night? It wasn't a cold. Everybody knows it's not a cold.
So I half agree with you and half disagree with you in the sense that I watched that and thought, oh my God, this is bad. And yes, it reminds me of elderly parents or grandparents. On the other hand, the Bidens don't have clean hands here. Jill and Joe are pretty ambitious people. They seem like pretty stubborn people. They've had 2 weeks since the debate, and they've been pretty defiant. Rather than engage with some of the criticisms, talk about some of the health issues, they've gone to war with the Pod Save America podcasters. They've gone to war with members of their own party. Now they're attacking George Clooney's vigor and energy because he dared to come out and say, a friend of theirs, that, this is not the Biden of 20th. They seem pretty stubborn. And I notice in the wide shot of you, we're both on screen right now, there's a doll, an RBG doll over your shoulder. I can't help but notice there. And it reminds me of the RBG situation where she was a hero to Democrats. She clearly should have retired. And yet she very stubbornly said, no, there's no one else but me who can do this. And Biden literally went on George Stephanopoulos and said, nope, no one else but me can keep NATO together.
2 weeks since the debate,
right?
Defiant.
She's there for spiritual purposes. I agree with you. I'm not going to take her down, but I think we all realize now that was a huge mistake.
Yeah,
and
it's stubbornness.
Yes, but I'll disagree with you. Actually, I don't think they took it far enough to say that he and Jill have been defiant. I would go further and say he has been arrogant in this last week or two. Arrogant, narcissistic. He has displayed Trumpian behavior in the sense of, remember when Trump, when he ran, said, I'm the only one.
Yeah, I alone can fix it. Yeah.
I alone can fix these. And to say that for Biden to think, and I don't think he thinks this, that he's the only one that is going to do this, or the only one that can defeat Trump, there's lots of evidence to show that he can't defeat Trump. And so I think sadly it's been narcissistic and arrogant to dig in and take this position when he is mostly beloved. So with the exception of, we'll get to it, I think, in a moment when we talk about.
Yes, we will.
Yeah.
You mentioned can't win. Is your position that he can't win? Because that's not my position. My position is he still could win, but it's just less likely with him at the top of the ticket versus a Kamala Harris. You have Alan Lichtman, this presidential historian who a lot of Biden supporters are quoting, saying he got 9 of the last 10 elections right, and he says Biden should stay on the ballot. I have a long enough memory to remember you, Michael, coming on my show at Al Jazeera in 2016 and being one of the few voices saying, no, Trump's going to beat Hillary Clinton. So put Alan Lichtman to one side. Michael Moore with the glass ball, with the predictions. What do you think is going to happen in November? Do you think he cannot win if he stays on the ticket?
I don't have a glass ball. I'm not Cassandra, but I did out Lichtman in 2016. I guess that'll somehow be my legacy at some point. But yes, I understand why somebody like you would say, yeah, it's not no chance for Biden to win. That, of course, there's a chance. There just might be a better chance with somebody else. But you should say, look at you. Can we go to the 2-shot again? There. You have a coat and a tie on. I have a black T-shirt. I would prefer to listen to you than to me. So
no, nice try. Let me ask you this. Okay, let me ask you this.
I have a high school degree. Where did you go to university?
We're not going to get into this, Michael. Another important.
You don't want to admit.
I'm an elitist. But you got 2016 right, Michael. I thought Hillary Clinton would win, so I was wrong. I stopped doing predictions in 2016 because of Brexit and Trump, both of which I got wrong. Which is why I'm not comfortable with people who say black and white, Biden can win or can't win. It's going to be close.
Of course it's going to be close. And I just said that you took the rational position by saying it is possible for Biden to still. And the reason why it's possible that Biden can still win is because up until October 7th, I kept telling people for the last 3 years that there's no way Trump's coming back. Biden is good, because the reason for that is 10 million people voted, we don't want Donald Trump in the White House any longer. 7 million between Biden, 7 million more votes than Trump. But 3 million others voted third party. 10 million for Trump to win, I thought, up until October. He's going to have to convince 5 million people who didn't want him 4 years ago, after these 4 years of not having him around. 5 million just miss him so much. They're going to suddenly change and vote for him? No.
So let's talk about October the 7th. Let's talk about Gaza, because you have said, including in this interview, that Biden is the most progressive president of our lifetimes. But I'm assuming you meant domestic policy, because when it comes to his support for Israel in Gaza, there's nothing progressive, obviously, about backing a genocide that's killed almost 40,000 people now. Is his Gaza policy a true stain on his progressive record?
Well, it's not just a stain. It's going to, I believe, cost him the election if he stays in. Michelle Goldberg, who's an op-ed columnist in the New York Times, went to Detroit and Dearborn, which is a very, very large Arab and Muslim population, to kind of take the temperature. And after 3 days there, she wrote a column for the New York Times, and the headline was that if Biden loses Michigan, he loses the election. And it was very clear to her, and it's clear from the 2 polls that the Arab American Institute has taken since October, one at the end of October and one at the end of May, that Biden, who got 60+% of the Arab and Muslim vote in the U.S., and then specifically in these 4 states with Arab populations where they polled: Michigan, Florida, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. 60% in 2020 of Arab and Muslim, both at the end of October and at the end of May, virtually unchanged. Biden's Arab and Muslim support here in these states had dropped from 60% to 19%, 41 percentage point drop. Trump's Arab and Muslim vote in 2020 was 1/3. 1/3 of Arabs and Muslims voted for him. Trump's at the end of May of this year, now 4 years later, his those who say Arab and Muslims are going to vote for Trump, 1/3. It's unchanged. So the 41% who have dropped out of the Biden camp are people who are saying either we're going to vote, but we're not going to vote for the top line. We're not going to vote for president. Or we're going to stay home. That's the death of Biden's chances.
And of course, it's not even just Arab American or Muslim American voters. It's Black American voters, young voters, progressives, all of whom are outraged over the Gaza policy. And that's why I wanted to ask you, Michael, have you?
Can I say though? The reason I focused on Arab and Muslims in Michigan, we have 200,000 registered Muslim American voters in the state of Michigan.
No, I agree with you. It's a disaster on that front. What I'm wondering, though, is just using this as a jumping off point for a broader question about Israel and American policy. Have you seen in the last few years, especially in the last few months, a massive change in the Democratic Party base, which is now very much sympathetic to the plight of the Palestinians in a way it never has been before?
That goes without saying. I mean, just all the campus activity here in the spring was amazing. The things that people have been not afraid to say on television about the situation, which is not new. This is a situation that has been, it's 75 plus years old. And young people
it's a disaster on that
can't
front.
understand
What I'm wondering,
how
though,
this could be.
just
Why
using
is
this
that?
as
Well, first of all, young people don't like war. So Biden has lost a significant chunk of young voters because they're usually anti-war. Why is that? Because they're the ones sent to war when we have a war. They're the ones who die. And when they see other young people, especially in Gaza, we're talking babies, young people. The majority of the dead are either young people, the elderly. This has been a massacre of massive proportions. You, Mehdi, and I are the funders of it. It's our tax dollars that Biden has used to fund this slaughter. And young people don't like that. Arab Americans don't like it. People of color don't like it. Anybody who doesn't like war doesn't like it. And I think that, and I tried to just say it as loud as I could right away in October. Please don't go and hug Netanyahu. Don't do this. Can we just go back to just a year ago? Not even a year ago. This last September, UN week in New York City, where all the leaders of the world come and give their speech. And every year, the Prime Minister of Israel, including Netanyahu in the past years, is always invited down to the White House the day after to have a little public chit-chat and photo op with the President of the United States. I mean, every year. Biden, in the beginning of September, told his staff, I don't want Netanyahu here in the White House. This is widely reported.
Yes.
Didn't want them there, didn't want him there. Why? Well, there were all the demonstrations through the summer because he was trying to destroy their Supreme Court. But more importantly, he was already indicted for at least, I think, 3 felonies: bribery, fraud, something else. He and his henchmen were going to be tried in the fall on these felonies. And once the war started, that was the end of any trial for Netanyahu. Everything got put
and the end of any distance between Biden and Netanyahu, because he did hug him close.
In 1 month, he goes from I don't want that bastard in the White House. He's not coming down during UN week. I will not have him sit here with me. To a little over a month later, getting on a plane and going and giving him a huge hug.
And of course, Michael, Benjamin Netanyahu is coming to Congress this month to address at the invitation of the Republicans, but Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries co-signed that invite. A few Democrats like Bernie have said we will not be in the room when he speaks. What kind of scene will that be for the world, for the American public? This guy who is being investigated for genocide at the International Court of Justice, the International Criminal Court is asking for arrest warrants for him, and yet the US Congress will be standing and applauding him as he defends his genocidal war.
Biden, for 3 years, did so much to restore American integrity to the rest of the world. I mean, the world couldn't believe that we got rid of Trump, and then maybe everybody was a little safer now. And Biden did that. Biden was the one who saved us and the world from Trump. So to have him all of a sudden do what he's done to fund the genocide, to also arm him. What was it yesterday in the news? More 500-pound bombs being sent to Netanyahu to bomb civilian populations. Every time Biden says, I'm going to warn them, don't kill civilians, hasn't done it. We're going to put in a pier and get humanitarian aid there. Couldn't do it. Didn't do it. It's the whole thing has been so disgusting. And people say, I get this after I was said this last week. People wrote to me, Mike, you got to convince the Arabs and the Muslims in Michigan. They don't want Trump back. He had the Muslim ban. And I write back and I say, no, they don't want Trump either. But there's a difference between a Muslim ban, I can't get on a 747 and fly to the United States, and the massacre of tens of thousands of people that you and I are funding. We are arming it.
Yes.
And the world, the UN, what was the last UN vote about whether or not to seat Palestine and give them a real seat at the UN, 143 around the 443 nations in favor of ceding Palestine.
But not the US.
9 opposed, including, right, not the US.
Michael, last question to you. I'm sure many filmmakers, journalists, documentary makers have been inspired by you over the years, look to you for guidance, will be inspired by you in years to come. And I wondered about some advice you might have. And in fact, here at Zeteo, we're about to release our first documentary film. It's called Israel's Real Extremism, and it details some of the crimes committed by Israeli soldiers in Gaza and filmed on TikTok. What is your advice for any aspiring filmmaker, young journalist, who is trying to make a film or a documentary uncovering things that the mainstream media don't want to uncover, that the people in power don't want to shed light on? What's your advice for them?
Well, first of all, thank you for releasing the film you're about to release. My advice to especially young people who are filmmakers or want to be a filmmaker, now more than ever, we need your voices, we need your cameras, we need the truth to be shown to the people in America and around the world of what's really going on here. And Netanyahu and his gang will not be able to survive the truth. I have a lot of faith in a lot of Israelis, and if you, I read I now subscribe to 3 Israeli papers a day, the ones that have an English language version, and I'm sure you read these, and I don't know if you read Hebrew or you might understand Arabic, but it is amazing. You know this, what I'm going to say. The Israeli press is robust.
Yeah.
It has a diversity of viewpoint, and right now they are doing their investigative reports, and the truth is going to come out. And nobody I know doesn't support protecting the Israeli people. Nobody wants to see anybody die. No more death. No more. And especially, Greg was born 8-9 years after the Holocaust, after World War II. I grew up understanding what that meant and what was done to the Jewish people on this planet, and the concept of never again was drilled into me, because we have to make sure this never happens again. But the fact that as I belong to Jewish Voice for Peace, I'm not Jewish, but I belong to it, and one of their main platform positions is Israel and the Israeli people are no longer safe when we, meaning the Israelis, are executing and slaughtering civilians just willy-nilly. And that the best way, if people want to support, in other words, defend the lives of people who are Israeli civilians, the absolute best way to do that is to stop this criminal activity, put Netanyahu on the trial he was supposed to already be on, and let's start doing what we need to do, which is right away have the ceasefire. Release the hostages. Get the humanitarian aid in there.
Agreed.
No more of this.
And as the Israeli press is reporting, Benjamin Netanyahu is the big block on the ceasefire, ironically, not Hamas, as Joe Biden claims. Michael Moore, we will have to leave it there. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Mehidi, and congratulations on this show. Keep doing this important work. I can't tell you. You said, what should we tell young people to do with making a documentary or whatever? I tell you, we need you now more than ever. Please do this important work. Continue to do it. I can't wait until your film is released next week.
Appreciate it, Michael.
I was born 8-9 years after the Holocaust, after World War II. I grew up understanding what that meant and what was done to the Jewish people on this planet.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. President Biden's calling for national unity after Saturday's attempted assassination of Donald Trump. The former president was shot near the ear during an outdoor rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. One attendee of the rally was shot dead, 2 others critically wounded. The gunman was also shot dead by Secret Service. On Sunday night, President Biden gave a primetime address from the Oval Office.
There's no place in America for this kind of violence, for any violence, ever. Period. No exceptions. We can't allow this violence to be normalized. You know, the political record in this country has gotten very heated. It's time to cool it down. We all have a responsibility to do that. Yes, we have deeply felt strong disagreements. The stakes in this election are enormously high.
The FBI is continuing to investigate Saturday's shooting. Authorities have identified the gunman as 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks, who lived in the Pittsburgh suburb of Bethel Park, not far from where the rally took place. Investigators believe Crooks acted alone, but have not yet determined a motive. The AR-15 used in the attack had been purchased by his father. Secret Service snipers shot Crooks dead soon after he opened fire. Part of the investigation centers on how the gunman managed to get on top of a nearby building located about 400 feet away from the stage with a direct line of sight on the stage. Some Republicans directly cast blame on the Biden campaign. Republican Senator of Ohio, J.D. Vance, being considered a top vice presidential running mate of Trump.